I'm a private investigator specializing in catching cheating spouses. I was out on a job with a client, helping her corner her cheating boyfriend. The moment she snapped photos of him with another woman and sent them over, she dialed his number in a raging fury. The next second, my husband's voice came through the phone. Baby, don't be mad, because you're a mistress too. His voice was careless, with a hint of amusement. My client froze. What do you mean? The voice on the other end was unusually calm. There are 7 mistresses ahead of you, and my wife is only Arya. Arya was my name. Besides me, you're seeing 7 other women, and you have a wife, so why did you come after me? Her hand trembled as she held the phone, and her voice burned with overwhelming rage. Ethan Carter chuckled softly, his cool tone carrying a lazy indifference. My wife isn't young anymore, but men will always like something fresh and exciting, and at least you're young and interesting enough to play with. Ha! When my client heard this, she suddenly laughed from pure fury. Her name is Arya, right? What do you think will happen if I tell her you have 8 women outside? Since you don't love me, then we'll go down together. Baby, don't do something that will make both of us unhappy. Everyone has the day when they grow old and lose their looks, so why care whether I love you or not? Why not take advantage of your youth and get more money out of me? His voice carried a bone-chilling coldness, and his tone turned icy almost instantly. My client clenched her phone and said through gritted teeth, "You bastard." A low laugh came from the phone, and his calm tone held a deep chill. If my Arya finds out you exist, you will die a very ugly death, and I will shelve you, blacklist you, and from then on, no director will ever use you again. Her body trembled violently, and unwillingness filled her eyes before she finally forced out one sentence after a long while. I'm pregnant. The moment those words fell, my pupils shrank hard, and the other end of the phone seemed to go silent for a long time. She lifted her chin and suddenly threw out another line. But I'm planning to get rid of it, so let your wife give birth for you. She can't give birth. Ethan's voice was terrifyingly cold. Give birth to the child. Then what about my status? Her eyes were bloodshot. An illegitimate child? I'll convince her and make her think the child is an orphan, and she'll agree to adopt it, so she'll raise this child for you. Ethan's tone was as calm as if he were discussing today's weather. You can also try to refuse me, and you can give it a try. My heart sank to the bottom, because my uterus had been destroyed years ago when a female client of his, jealous of me while he was starting his business, drugged me. Back then, blood covered the floor, and I could never have children again. He held my hand, stabbed himself and cried as he said, "Arya, I'm sorry." After that, he used that client's resources to close a contract and climb his way up step by step. When he became a powerful figure capable of turning the entire industry upside down, the first thing he did was ruin that female client, until she lost everything and ended up on the streets. Back then, he knelt before me and cried like a child. "Arya, I got revenge for you." I came back to myself and looked at the woman in front of me, who was a new actress in the entertainment industry, Chloe Bennett. She suddenly let out a cold laugh. Then between your wife and me, who do you love most? It's me, right? Love you. Ethan gave a mocking laugh, as if he had heard some kind of joke. If I loved you, would I not marry you? If I loved you, would I keep you outside like this? If I loved you, would I let you be the other woman? So you love your wife more? Hatred churned in Chloe's eyes, then quickly turned into a smile. You're generous with money and low maintenance, so I don't seem to have any reason to leave you, but believe it or not, I'll make you fall in love with me. Do whatever you want, but don't mess around until my child dies. After Ethan said that, he hung up directly. I did not know how I said goodbye to my client, and I only returned to the villa Ethan and I shared in a daze. I picked up my phone and sent Ethan a message. "Ethan, do you love me?" He replied almost instantly. "Ethan. Just landed, and I brought my baby a gift, so of course I love you." Below that were several blowing kiss stickers, and the gift was the dress I had loved for a long time, the only one in the world, which had been bought by someone else at an auction. I endured the nausea in my heart and sent him another message. "You know I'm a descendant of witches, and before I went down the mountain with you, the clan leader placed a curse on me, so once I know you betrayed me, I will gradually forget every memory related to you." The next second after the message was sent, the door opened, and Ethan's handsome face appeared before my eyes. He came over and hugged me, burying his head against the side of my neck. "Baby, I missed you so much." "Ethan, do you love me?" I looked into his eyes and forced each word out of my throat. He pinched my cheek. "Who else would I love if not you? Then what about the other 8? I looked at him and sneered. "You gave your love to me, so what are they supposed to do?" The air around us seemed to fall into dead silence, and after a long time, he finally lifted his head, the smile in his eyes vanishing instantly. "You know everything? Why?" I looked at him, unable to stop my tears from falling. He sat down calmly. "Because you're old, and you're no longer young, while men all like young women, so it's that simple. When we got married, you said that if you betrayed me, I could kill you." My whole body trembled uncontrollably. He stood up, picked up the fruit knife on the table, and calmly handed it to me. You can stab me as many times as you want, until your anger is gone. I took the fruit knife, but then it slid weakly from my hand. Why? Because I can't get pregnant. You said you didn't mind. I really don't mind. He reached out and carefully wiped away the tears at the corners of my eyes. I said that as long as you betrayed me, I would leave you. I looked at him, and both physically and emotionally, I would leave him. He curled his lips carelessly. But baby, you're not young anymore, and I've already had you so many times, so no one else will take over. Your parents are dead, your clan doesn't want you, and only by staying with me can you avoid being all alone, so I'm not afraid you'll leave, because you will definitely come back. Listening to his words, I felt for the first time that the person before me was so unfamiliar. But did you forget? I have a curse on me, and if you betray me, I will forget you. Then forget the fact that I cheated first. He helped me up from the floor, and covered me with a blanket. Over the years, taking care of me seemed to have become his habit, and he would not forget even when we fought. He rubbed my head. You're not a kid anymore, so don't use that kind of children's story to fool me. With them, I'm just chasing a moment of novelty, and absolutely no woman will ever threaten you. He kissed my lips. If any woman dares to come in front of you, I will abandon her without hesitation. Then will you abandon Chloe too? I looked at him. She's carrying your child, right? The smile on his face stopped, and then he stood up and looked down at me. Are you interrogating me? You can't give birth, so is it wrong for me to find someone else to have a child? Ethan, let's get divorced. I looked at him and forced out every word with difficulty. He crouched down, and his gaze turned gentle again. The one I love is still you, and once I'm tired of playing, I'll still come back. No one will wait for you in the same place. I stared hard at him. His tone was unconcerned. But you will, won't you? Because you have nowhere else to go. I did not want to look at him anymore, so I turned and left without looking back. That night, I felt my entire body turn frighteningly cold, and I desperately tried to hold on to some memories, but they were still ruthlessly pulled away. The next morning, when I got up, I kept feeling like I had forgotten something, but I could not remember what it was. I walked to the living room, and Ethan was in the kitchen making oatmeal for me, looking at me with a gentle gaze. The divorce agreement is on the table. You want to divorce me? My gaze froze, and I lifted my head to look at him with trembling eyes. Why? He lowered his eyes and looked at me with some amusement. Forgot. He nodded as if he understood, then picked up the divorce agreement. I wasn't planning to divorce anyway, and since you've given me a way out, I'll take it. After he said that, he tore up the agreement directly. I looked at him in shock, and he stepped forward, wrapped an arm around my waist, and kissed my lips. I have something to do on our wedding anniversary today, so later I'll have my best friend, Ryan, keep you company. Where are you going? I grabbed him. He chuckled. You know where I'm going, and I'll make it up to you tomorrow, but today I have to go with her for a prenatal checkup. I looked at him in confusion, wondering whose prenatal checkup he was going to accompany. He chuckled softly. See, yesterday you were the one making a fuss about divorce, and now you're the one who can't bear to let go. So stop acting up, because once you leave me, you'll be the first one who can't take it. I did not know what he was talking about, and I only knew he called Ryan. Yeah, we're not divorcing again, and she's pretending to have amnesia, so now that she gave me a way out, how could I not take it? Ryan's voice came from the other end of the phone. That curse is just something to fool kids with, and even if she really forgot, I'm also a descendant of witches, so I can just undo it for her, right? I actually hope she really forgot. Ethan placed the dessert in front of me. Let her love me a little less for now, and when I've had enough fun and come back, she can remember me again, and I'll have a little more freedom too. Ryan teased him for dreaming too big, asking where in the world there was such a good thing that someone could forget whenever they wanted and remember whenever they wanted. Before Ethan left, he told the housekeeper to put less sugar in my food, because I did not like sweets. Looking at everything in front of me, I seemed to understand that I must have lost a section of my memory, but I would only gradually lose my memory when Ethan no longer loved me. So he had betrayed me. Just as I was thinking, the next second, Ryan pushed the door open and came in. Arya, I brought you your favorite fruit wine. I walked downstairs, and he looked at me, always good at reading people and choosing the words I liked to hear. Back then, when you and Ethan were living under a bridge together, you worked 3 jobs by yourself for his startup, and whenever you were exhausted, you loved having a sip of fruit wine. He poured me a glass. It's still the old flavor, and the owner of that fruit wine shop had already retired, but Ethan spent $300,000 and forced the owner to teach him how to make it. I took a sip and immediately choked from how harsh it was. He didn't retire, did he? His shop probably went bankrupt because he couldn't sell this stuff. What did you say? Ryan's gaze suddenly froze, and his eyes widened. Back then, this fruit wine was your favorite, and you said it could make you remember a lot of old things. Also, can you not make me sound like the female lead of some tragic drama? I glared at him. Ethan is so rich, so how could we have lived under a bridge before? This time, his eyes widened even more, and they were full of shock. You two had no money when you started the business. And Ethan only became rich 10 years ago, and the first thing he did after making it was marry you. Ethan and I have only been married for 5 years, so where did 10 years come from? I looked at him and smiled lazily. All right, I need to go to the hospital. No, that's not right, this isn't right. Ryan stopped me. Arya, you don't remember. I changed my shoes and said helplessly, I remember everything, okay? I need to go to the hospital for a checkup. After saying that, I ignored the panic in Ryan's eyes, got up, and headed to the hospital. I had just gotten into the car when, the next second, my client Chloe sent me a set of photos, showing a man supporting her as she had a fetal checkup outside the maternity room. I was just about to congratulate her when, the next second, I realized those hands looked somewhat familiar. Chloe. He said you're like a dead fish in bed, and in the end, you're old now, so he can't even get hard when he sees your face. Chloe. I heard today is your wedding anniversary, so happy anniversary, but I'm borrowing your husband. Looking at that message, the blood in my body turned bone cold, and I ran to the hospital like a madwoman. When I saw that familiar figure, my heart went cold. Then aren't you afraid your wife will see this and divorce you? Chloe nestled in his arms like a docile little wildcat. Ethan took the pen the nurse handed him, and wrote his name in the father column. We've been together for 20 years, and we've long been used to each other, so where could she go if she left me? You've loved each other for 20 years, so why did you betray her? She tugged at his tie, her tone coy. Ethan pinched her face. Haven't you heard enough? She's old, and her looks have faded, so I can't feel desire when I look at her, but I won't divorce her, because I still love her. Men really do want everything. Chloe punched his chest lightly. You want the bright freshness of a young woman, and you also want the long companionship of someone who has been through everything with you. So don't show up in front of her, and that will be good for both of us. Ethan lightly pecked her lips. Chloe pouted, and he opened his mouth to comfort her, but when he lifted his head, his gaze landed on me, and his expression suddenly froze. Arya. I heard everything. I looked at him as tears streamed down. You have a child outside, you cheated with her, and you betrayed me. Ethan walked toward me in panic and grabbed my hand. Be good, don't make a scene. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and shook off his hand. Ethan, let's get divorced. But to my surprise, he was not afraid and instead looked at me calmly with a cold face. Is this fun? What? I did not understand what he meant. He gradually closed in on me and forced me into the corner. I'm asking you, is it fun to keep using divorce to threaten me? He gripped my chin and forced me to lift my head and look up at him. You're not young anymore, so stop acting like a child looking for attention, asking me for a divorce today, then regretting it tomorrow and pretending to have amnesia. Ethan. Ryan's voice suddenly came from behind us, and he anxiously separated us, panting heavily. Arya, something is wrong with her. Ethan said nothing and motioned for him to continue. Arya, she seems to have really forgotten. Ryan's breath was ragged, his hands shaking as he held Ethan's shoulder. Ethan, listen to me. She didn't just forget a fight. She doesn't remember that. You two lived under the bridge for 5 years. She doesn't remember that you made the fruit wine for her. She thinks you've only been married for 5 years. Ethan's face darkened instantly. He shoved Ryan's hand off his shoulder, his lips twisting into a cold sneer. Ryan, have you lost your mind too? Are you letting her fool you with this ridiculous play? Ethan glared at me, his eyes full of icy contempt. Arya, you're really getting better at acting. You even recruited my best friend to put on a show for me. I looked at Ethan. My heart felt hollow, like a cavern where the wind whipped through empty stone. Who is Ryan? I asked softly. The air in the hospital corridor seemed to freeze. Ryan froze. Ethan's sneer stiffened on his face. What did you say? Ethan stepped closer, grabbing my wrist so hard my bones throbbed. Say that again. I asked you, who is he? I looked at the man standing beside him with genuine confusion. He kept talking to me at the house earlier, calling me Arya, talking about wine. Is he your friend? Why does he know my name? Ethan's grip tightened until my skin turned white. He stared into my eyes, searching desperately for a flicker of pretense, a hint of sarcasm, or a trace of the burning hatred I had held just moments ago. There was nothing. My eyes were clear, quiet, and completely devoid of emotion. Stop it. Ethan shouted, his composure shattering for the first time. Arya, stop playing games. You're mad because I brought Chloe for her checkup, right? Fine. I'll send her away. I won't see her again. Are you satisfied now? Stop pretending you don't know Ryan. Beside us, Chloe's face turned pale. Ethan, you said you'd protect me and the baby. Shut up. Ethan screamed at her, his head whipping around, eyes bloodshot. Get out of here. Get out of my sight. Chloe shrank back in terror. tears spilling over her cheeks as she backed away. Ethan turned back to me, his voice trembling slightly despite his effort to sound commanding. See, I sent her away. You don't have to act anymore. Cool me. Home with me. He dragged me toward the exit. I didn't fight him. I didn't cry. I simply followed him like an obedient shadow, watching his tense back with distant curiosity. In the car, Ethan kept glancing at me through the rearview mirror. He reached out and turned on the radio. It was playing a soft acoustic ballad, the song he had played on an old, scratched guitar the night he proposed to me on a rooftop 10 years ago. Do you remember this song? Ethan asked, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. You said it was the best song you'd ever heard. I listened to the melody for a moment, then shook my head slightly. It's okay. A bit dreary. Ethan's foot slammed on the brake. The car screeched to a halt at the side of the road. Ethan turned around, staring at me with a face pale as paper. You really don't remember? Should I? I met his gaze, my tone light and even. Is it an important song? He stared at me, his chest heaving, but no words came out of his mouth. When we returned to the villa, Ethan immediately called a private doctor. The doctor performed a thorough neurological examination, ran brain scans, and checked every reflex. An hour later, the doctor stepped out of the study, looking puzzled. Mr. Carter, Mrs. Carter's brain activity is completely normal. There are no signs of trauma, lesions, or neurological degeneration. Physically, she is in perfect health. Ethan grabbed the doctor's collar, his face contorted in fury. Then why doesn't she remember things? Why did she forget 15 years of our life? I don't know, Mr. Carter. The doctor stammered, terrified. Psychologically speaking, if a person experiences extreme emotional trauma, the brain might trigger a defense mechanism called dissociative amnesia to block out painful memories. Painful memories? Ethan echoed, his grip loosening. Trauma. He remembered the look in my eyes yesterday when I found out about the 8 women. He remembered how cold my hands had been when I held the knife. Ryan walked into the study after the doctor hurried out. He looked at Ethan with deep pity. I told you, Ethan. The curse of the witch clan isn't a fairy tale. Ryan's voice was hollow. When an elder of her clan binds 2 souls, the curse is set. If the man betrays the bond, the woman's soul will burn away her memories of him to protect her life. If she keeps remembering you, the pain of your betrayal will kill her. Her soul is choosing to forget you so she can survive. Nonsense. Ethan slammed his fist against the mahogany desk, shattering a glass paperweight. It's a hoax. A primitive superstitious trick. I don't believe it. Then how do you explain it? Ryan asked sharply. She forgot her favorite wine. She forgot your proposal song. She forgot how you 2 started the company. Ethan, she's erasing you. Ethan stood frozen in the middle of the room, his breathing ragged. Suddenly, the front door downstairs banged open. Chloe stepped into the foyer, carrying a suitcase, her face red with crying. He marched into the living room where I was sitting on the sofa, drinking warm tea. Aria. Chloe yelled, pointing a finger at me. Stop pretending. Do you think you can win Ethan back by acting like a helpless amnesiac? I'm carrying his child. He loves me. I set my teacup down on the saucer with a soft clink. I looked up at her, scanning her designer outfit, her swollen belly, and her furious face. Who are you? I asked politely. Chloe's breath hitched. What? I asked, who are you and why are you in my house? I turned to the housekeeper, standing nearby. Auntie, did we hire a new decorator? Why is she shouting? Chloe's face twisted in rage. She lunged forward, reaching to grab my collar. You fake bitch. I'll pull your mask off. Before her hand could touch me, a dark shadow burst down the stairs. Smack. A sharp slap echoed through the living room. Chloe was knocked off her feet, falling hard onto the carpet, clutching her burning cheek in shock. Ethan stood over her, his eyes wild and bloodshot, his body shaking with rage. Who allowed you to come here? Who allowed you to touch her? Ethan. Chloe sobbed, staring at him in disbelief. You hit me. For her. You said she was old and faded. You said you couldn't even look at her. You said I was your fresh love. Shut your mouth. Ethan roared, kicking her suitcase out the front door. Get out. If I ever see you near her again, I'll destroy your family, your career, and everything you own. Chloe looked at Ethan's terrifying expression and realized he wasn't joking. She scrambled up from the floor, crying hysterically, and ran out into the rain. Ethan turned back to me, his hands trembling as he reached out to touch my shoulder. Arya, look, she's gone. I threw her out. I won't ever see her again. I looked at him, then at the open door where the rain was pouring down. Why were you so angry at her? I asked softly. She said she's carrying your child. Is that true? Ethan's hand froze midair. No, he lied desperately, his voice cracking. She's lying. It's not my child. I only love you, Arya. The moment the lie left his lips, a sharp, cold wind seemed to pass through the living room. I felt a sudden, strange sensation in my chest, as if a thread inside me had snapped with a silent pop. I looked at Ethan's desperate, handsome face. Who is this man? The thought floated naturally into my mind. I knew he was my husband, but his face looked so unfamiliar, like a stranger I had passed on the street once a long time ago. Oh, I said quietly, pulling my shoulder back, dodging his touch. Okay. Over the next 3 days, Ethan went completely mad. He canceled all his business meetings, shut down his company operations, and stayed at the villa 24 hours a day. He hired the top medical experts from around the world, brought in spiritual healers, and even tried to locate elders from my old witch clan, but none of them could help. The elders simply sent back a single message through Ryan. The heart that dies cannot be resurrected. The memory that burns cannot be rekindled. Ethan refused to accept it. He filled the villa with photos from our past. He hung our wedding portraits everywhere, on the living room walls, in the hallways, in our bedroom. He brought out old journals, pressed flowers from our first dates, and the silver ring he had fashioned for me out of a soda can pull tab when we were broke. He sat beside me on the bed, holding the soda can ring in his palm, his eyes bloodshot, tears dripping onto his lap. Arya, look at this, he begged, his voice raspy and broken. You kept this in your jewelry box for 15 years. You said it was more precious than any diamond. Remember? We ate cold noodles under the street lamp that night and you said you'd love me forever. I picked up the little piece of bent aluminum, examining it closely. Why would I keep garbage in my jewelry box? I asked, genuine confusion in my voice. I dropped it back into his palm. It's rusty. You should throw it away. Ethan choked on a sob, his chest heaving as he buried his face in his hands, weeping like a broken child. Arya, please don't do this to me, he whimpered. Punish me, hit me, stab me again with the fruit knife. Just don't look at me like I'm a stranger. I looked at him crying on the bed, feeling nothing at all. It was strange. A man was crying so bitterly in front of me, yet my heart didn't flutter, didn't ache, didn't even feel uncomfortable. It was as if he were a actor in a movie I wasn't particularly interested in watching. That evening, Chloe made her final desperate move. Having been abandoned by Ethan and facing the end of her acting career, she released all her private chat logs, voice recordings, and pregnancy checkup reports with Ethan to the media. Overnight, the story blew up across the entire country. Billionaire tech mogul Ethan Carter betrays devoted wife of 20 years. Actress Chloe Bennett exposes secret affair and illegitimate child. The fall of the industry paragon. Stock prices for Ethan's company plunged by 20% in a single morning. Board members were frantically calling his phone. Reporters surrounded the gates of the villa, and business partners were revoking contracts. Ethan didn't care about any of it. He didn't even look at his phone. He spent the entire morning in the kitchen, personally boiling oatmeal for me. His hands burned and blistered because he hadn't cooked in 10 years. When he brought the bowl to the dining room, his face was pale, his eyes sunken. Arya, I made your favorite oatmeal, he said, offering me a gentle, trembling smile. Less sugar, just how you like it. I looked at the bowl of oatmeal. Then I looked up at him. Thank you, I said politely. You're very kind, Mr. Carter. Ethan's hands shook so hard the hot bowl slipped from his grip, shattering on the floor, scalding oatmeal splashing across his expensive leather shoes. He didn't seem to feel the heat. He stared at me, his voice barely a whisper. What did you just call me? Mr. Carter. I repeated, my tone respectful and distant. That's your name, isn't it? I saw it on the mail on the hallway table. Ethan stumbled back, his eyes wide with horror, hitting the edge of the dining table. You don't know my name, he gasped, his voice cracking into a shriek. I'm Ethan. I'm your husband. We've been together for 20 years. I frowned slightly, feeling a mild headache. Husband? But I don't think I'm married. I stood up, looking around the grand, luxurious villa. I was wondering why I was staying in such a big house. Are you my landlord? Or am I your private investigator? No. Ethan screamed, grabbing his head with both hands, collapsing onto his knees amidst the shattered porcelain and spilled oatmeal. No. Arya. I'm Ethan. Ethan Carter. Ryan stepped into the dining room, his face dark with grief. He walked over and dragged Ethan up from the floor. It's over, Ethan, Ryan said, his voice heavy. She's at the final stage of the curse. She's erased your relationship, your history, and now, she's erasing your identity. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Ethan shoved Ryan wildly, tears and sweat streaming down his face. I can fix this. I'll destroy Chloe. I'll give Arya all my shares. I'll transfer all my property to her name. I'll kneel in front of her. Clan's mountain for 3 years. He rushed over to me, grabbing my shoulders, his breath hot and frantic against my face. Arya, look at me. Look into my eyes. I metan. The boy who took a knife for you. The boy who swore to protect you forever. I looked into his bloodshot eyes. In those eyes, I saw desperation, terror, and a deep, agonizing love. But to me, those eyes were completely empty. They belonged to a stranger who was behaving very strangely. Mr. Carter, I said calmly, pushing his hands off my shoulders. Please respect my personal space. If you continue to harass me, I will have to call the police. Ethan froze. His arms fell limply to his sides. His eyes lost all their light, turning into 2 hollow black pits. Just then, my phone rang in my pocket. I pulled it out and answered. A clear, elderly voice sounded from the speaker. Arya, my child. The soul tether has finally snapped. Your trunk is packed and your brothers are waiting outside the villa gates to take you home to the mountain. Grandmother? I smiled warmly, a feeling of deep, familiar peace washing over my heart. Yes, I'm ready. I don't know why I was staying in this place anyway. I hung up, walked upstairs to the guest room, and brought down a small, light suitcase. I hadn't packed any of the designer dresses, the diamond jewelry, or the expensive coats Ethan had bought over the years. I only took my own simple clothes and my private investigator license. When I walked down the stairs, Ethan was standing by the front door, looking like a hollow statue. Are you leaving? He asked, his voice barely audible, sounding like dry leaves scraping against pavement. Yes, I smiled politely. Thank you for letting me stay here these past few days, Mr. Carter. You're a very generous landlord. Ethan looked at me, his lips moving, but no sound came out. He opened his mouth, tried to speak, tried to cry, tried to reach out, but his hands remained paralyzed at his sides. He knew that if he touched me now, if he forced me to stay, it would only be an assault on a stranger. I pulled my suitcase past him, pushed open the grand iron doors of the villa, and stepped into the crisp, cool morning air. Outside the gates, a simple black SUV was waiting. 2 young men in traditional, woven robes stepped out, smiling warmly as they saw me. Sister, they called out, rushing over to take my suitcase. Welcome home. I smiled, stepping into the car. As the SUV pulled away, I glanced out the window one last time. A man was standing by the iron gates of the villa, drenched in the morning mist, watching the car drive away. He looked so small, so lonely, and so utterly broken. I wondered briefly why he looked so sad, but the thought flickered out like a candle in the wind, leaving behind nothing at all. 5 years later, in a quiet, mist-shrouded valley deep within the southern mountains, a small, 2-story wooden tea house stood beside a clear mountain stream. The air was filled with the fragrance of wild jasmine and boiling tea leaves. I sat by the window, wearing a simple linen dress, carefully recording notes in a leather notebook. After returning to the clan, I had opened this tea house, living a quiet, peaceful life. My body was healthy, my mind was clear, and I felt happier than I had ever been. A soft chime sounded at the door. Welcome, I said without looking up, pouring a cup of fresh spring water into a porcelain pot. What kind of tea would you like today? No one answered. Only the sound of slow, heavy footsteps echoed across the wooden floorboards. Stopping right in front of my desk, I lifted my head. Standing before me was a man in an impeccably tailored black suit. His hair was streaked with gray at the temples, his face pale and carved with deep lines of exhaustion. He looked like a powerful, wealthy businessman from the city, but his eyes were filled with an unbearable, trembling grief. He held a small, beautifully wrapped gift box in his hands. Hello, sir, I said with a polite, professional smile. Are you looking for someone? The man's breath hitched. A tear slipped silently from his eye, running down his lined cheek. He carefully set the gift box on the counter. Inside was a unique, handcrafted bottle of fruit wine, the kind made by an old master who had retired years ago. I was just passing through, the man whispered, his voice raspy and choked. I brought a gift for the owner of the shop. For me. I looked at the bottle of wine, then shook my head with a soft chuckle. Thank you, sir, but I don't drink fruit wine. It's too harsh for my taste. I prefer wild jasmine tea. The man's body shuddered violently, as if he had been struck by a silent, physical blow. He closed his eyes, taking a long, ragged breath, holding back a sob that threatened to tear his chest apart. I see, he whispered softly. I apologize for disturbing you. It's no trouble at all, I replied kindly. Would you like a cup of warm tea before you leave? It's a long way back down the mountain. The man looked at me, at my clear, bright eyes, at my peaceful smile, at the utter absence of any painful memory in my face. He smiled through his tears, a quiet, devastating smile of complete surrender. No, thank you, he said softly, backing toward the door, step by painful step. seeing that you're living so well is enough." He bowed deeply to me, turned around, and walked out into the misty mountain. Then, I watched his tall, lonely figure vanish into the white fog, feeling only a gentle, fleeting curiosity about the strange visitor from the city. Then I picked up my bamboo spoon, turned back to my teapot, and let the warm, sweet steam fill the quiet room.